Well, hi everybody, this is DearMamaSal, and we are live on a Friday lunchtime, which means it's time for us to be talking about coping with our feelings. And for those of you who may be new to our broadcast, welcome. We always invite you to join us. If you are watching in the background, that's also absolutely fine. What we find is that some people listen just, for the longest time before they come in and join us on a chat. The only warning I will give you, if you do come in and chat, and we welcome that, we love to meet new people. If you do come in, please make sure that you understand that if you make a comment, I will presume it's okay for me to repeat it. However, if you do want to make a comment and it's only for the other people in the room at the time, then just at the beginning, please put, Sal, don't talk about this. And the reason I say that is because I was halfway through somebody's comment one time and I noticed at the end of it, it said, don't comment. And I was too far in to be able to stop. So just understand that. Hi to Jody. And Jody, for those of you who don't know, is our admin and does a wonderful job of reminding me about things and keeping in touch with people and doing all sorts of wonderful things like that. So great to see you, Jody. And we'll talk about our sleep pattern a bit later. Coping with our feelings. And, what we do is on a Friday lunchtime, we talk about our feelings for the week. And what I want you to understand is that we all have feelings, the good, the bad, and the ugly ones, every week. And part of what our mission is to help people talk about them and realize that they're quite normal, and that, and to talk about them more often. Because what happens is all too often we keep very quiet about it, and then it gets bottled up inside, and that's not healthy for us. For those of you who are regulars, you will know that I always quote this: coping means to invest one's own conscious effort to solve personal and interpersonal problems in order to try and master, minimize, or tolerate stress and conflict. I don't know about the rest of you, but I've spent a lot of my life not understanding that. So for those of you who are part of the DearMamaSal family, I've got a couple of birthdays that are coming up next week. Erin on the 26th and Becca on the 28th. And I'm still keeping my fingers crossed. I haven't heard from Autumn about whether she's given birth to her twins or not. So we'll see if she pops into the broadcast or not, and we'll get an idea about that. If there are any other birthdays out there about which I don't know, please make sure you let me know so that I can add it to our database. We're rebuilding our database at the moment. First of all, I wanted to say I was pretty amazed this week. Yeah. I was amazed that it's a year ago today that I moved into my new home. How many of you remember that? And that was, when I think about it, how much damage I did to my feet going backwards and forwards in that month between January the 15th and February the 15th. It was amazing, the damage that I did to my feet. Now, for those of you who don't know, what I was doing is every day bringing a load of stuff that I didn't want the movers to touch. And so that by the time the big move happened, I would already have my bathroom set up, my guest bathroom set up, my kitchen set up. I didn't have to think about those things, the things that were what I call the things you need immediately would already be set up. But what I forgot about doing that was that meant that every day I was traveling between the two houses, which is okay. But then I was going up a flight of stairs and then coming down with the box and then coming up a flight of stairs and then going down again. And boy, by the end of a month of doing that, I can tell you that I had plantar fasciitis and I had managed to partially tear or at least damage my Achilles tendons. Hi, Chip. Good to see you. And so that's the first thing that I was amazed about. Can you believe that it's a year? And there's part of me that's sad, and I'll talk about that in a second. And well, let me talk about it now, because, it's a year since I moved into my home. Well, part of me did anyway. But then it's 4 months ago that I moved out because of the fire. And, can you believe it's 4 months already that I've been displaced? And so there's that sort of amazement about that as well. Oh, and I'm pretty amazed. I got myself a new light, and I wanted to have you just check with me and tell me what you want to see the light, right? Here it is. But what I'm trying to work out is what color. No, that doesn't look good, does it? No, that doesn't look good either. Okay, it was better before I moved it. Why is that? Because there was less of it. There we go. Suddenly it was blinding. That will do it every time. So the question is 1, 2, 3 different colors. I still think 1 is the better one. But as I do that, it goes back to being full volume. Isn't that interesting? Hang on a second. We'll calm that down a bit. I could play with that all day. And the little kid in me finds that is fun. So 4 months since the fire in my house. For those of you who don't know, I had a ceiling fan in my bathroom catch fire. And in 15 minutes, which is how long it took for the fire brigade to get there, I managed to hold the fire off. But in the time it took the fire brigade to put it out, it did about $100,000 worth of damage, which was pretty scary. But I'm here and I'm alive and I'm in a beautiful, rented accommodation, about which I'm very happy. And but I am starting to feel the need to go home. Those of you who know me, it's that time of the year where I'm, would normally be doing things, getting ready for spring and stuff. So I'm sort of going, I wonder what I'm going to do about that, because I can't do too much at my home because they're busy, trying to fix it. So we'll see. And for me, I wonder what your greatest memories are of that a year ago. Interesting to see what you remember most about a year ago. I would definitely say, for me, there was that problem, and great memory for me, and I'm really happy to be able to remember that, is that, there I was, I just moved in, and then I got caught in a snowstorm. And I was trying to shovel my driveway with what seemed like a teaspoon, and I didn't have boots with me at all. I just had a pair of slip-on runners, and I was busy shoveling the snow with a pair of slip-on runners. And to me, it was just like, you do what you have to do. Just like one of those things. I wanted to say that I was amazed, and just for a second, I want to talk about what's going on in the US. And, just to understand, this is not about, I don't want to do anything but tell you what I was amazed about. And that was how many companies have come out and said, hey, if you don't accept the Electoral College vote, then, you don't get my money this year. And I believe Hallmark actually asked for their money back from the person that they gave it to, or people that they gave it to who didn't want to accept the Electoral college result. And I thought that was really interesting that they did that. And I was happy because obviously this is what the Constitution says. This is how we do the votes. This is how it's counted. And at the end of it, we have a peaceful transfer of power. Yeah, right. So I wondered how many of you are feeling great. Any of you feeling great this week? It's, we call it chapter 1 because it's January and it's week 3. Scary, isn't it? Or actually, are we week 3? It's week 2, I think, right? Just over. We're into week 3, starting week 3. So what I wanted to find out was, how many of you have given up on your goals already? I wonder if any of you have. And I just want to tell you, don't quit on your goals. And please don't quit on your goals. Oh, before I get into that, Jody's saying my memory is definitely that snow and the runners. And that first night you had trouble sleeping because the heating system was making a noise that you weren't used to. Everything in the house, thank you for reminding me, Jody, that's a great memory. Everything in the house was making noises I wasn't used to. And I was sleeping on, the house was totally empty. But, it's sort of everything about it, because it was hollow, everything sounded twice as scary as, it would do if I'd had carpets in and, bedding and stuff like that. Okay, hi, Jeannie, good to see you as well. Yeah, so Chip's saying that she was feeling grateful this week. You want to share that with us? And while you're doing that, I'll just carry on with what I was about to say. Can any of you believe, in terms of not giving up on your goals, in the next couple of months, we already, let's just tell you what the reality is. We are now at 1,495,823 views on DearMamaSal. Isn't that amazing? It's just like, that really is quite amazing to me. So we're just over 4,000 away from doing 1.5 million. And just, literally one broadcast at a time. It's amazing. And the other thing that perhaps amazes me even more is that this week I got a congratulations note from Yvonne. And I sort of wrote back and I said, for ? And she said, you quit smoking 8 years ago on the 12th of January. And so if any of you out there have also ever given up smoking, I can tell you that I spent a lifetime trying to quit. And eventually, 8 years ago, I did. And I am pretty amazed because of all that has happened this year. And a lot has happened to me this year. I had no thought to pull out a packet of cigarettes and have a cigarette. That to me is the amazing thing, because I certainly have been through more stress this year than I anticipated. So let's, mind you, sugar, it's looking good now. It's like, I might not need the cigarettes, but apparently I definitely enjoy the sugar still. Now then, I also had a moment of, oh, wait a minute, okay, Chip, I'm just going to carry on if you let us know while you're feeling, oh, there she goes. Chip saying, I've decided to switch my focus from the news that bogged me down last week. Good girl. She's saying, congratulations on your non-smoking anniversary and the channel views. Thanks, Chip. I'm going to get onto that in a second, Chip, what we need to do to protect ourselves this coming week. But glad to hear, and I think a lot of people have done that. They're limiting the amount of time they're watching the news because, quite honestly, it is really scary to watch and hear. I couldn't believe that they actually were, threatening to assassinate Pence. And then I also was devastated about that policeman that they beat down to the ground and then, tried to take his gun away to kill him with it. I mean, never mind the poor guy that got crushed. I mean, that to me was just, every time I see that picture, I have to turn away because I can't watch what happened to him. Anyway, so another joyful moment. As some of you know, I've put my focus this year more into getting exercise, and I've been doing incredibly well over the last, I think it's 64 days now that I've been doing it. So I started, as some of you know, just trying to do 10, 15 minutes a day of some sort of movement. And what I did this week was I took I've got a Wii, and it's got a board that you put on the floor, and it's about 2 inches high, I guess. And I did 30 minutes of stepping on and off that board. If you can imagine that, 1 foot on, 2 feet on, 1 foot off, 2 feet off, 1 foot on. I did that for 30 minutes. I did 2,750 steps. And what has amazed me and also brings me such joy is that if you remember when I started, I couldn't just walk in place for 15 minutes without having a bit of a problem. I was having problems with my left leg and all sorts of things. And so you look at it and you go, I might not have lost weight yet. And there's some discussion as to what I'm actually building as muscle. And that will need to build before I can, drop the weight. But what amazes me is that I was able to do 30 minutes nonstop of going up and down a step. And that tells me that my balance is better, that my endurance is better, and, all sorts of things. And, if you think about it, in doing that, I have to be able to put, by the way, it was to a rhythm, like a metronome. It was to a rhythm. So I had to make sure that my timing was right as well. And it was really mind-blowing, quite honestly. I was so proud of myself. And, to me, it was just like, I really have built some strength in my body to be able to do that. All right, so Jeannie is saying she went to her house. Now, for those of you who don't know, both Jeannie and I had house fires this year. Jeannie's saying she went to her house and talked about the rooms in the basement. Stairs to the basement are better than they were before, with railings on both sides. Everything looks good. Well, isn't that joyful? I'm delighted to hear that, Jeannie, and so glad that you're sharing a joy moment for you. Now, I went off, as you know, on Sunday. I went off to go and have my one meal out for the week, and that's my Chinese meal that I go. And one of the things that I learned there, the joy of knowledge, is that you remember last week I was saying that I was shocked because I got an assessment on the value of my house, and the assessment went up 40%, over 40% actually. And I was, really worried about how much I was going to have to pay in taxes and things. Well, one of the things that I heard when I was at the Chinese dinner was not to worry, because the most that they can charge me is $100 a month, because I'm an old fart, I'm retired. And apparently I didn't know that the very maximum you can pay for your property taxes once you're retired is $100 a month. So that was good news. I didn't know. But I want to go back for a second to this never give up on your goals. How many of you have got a long-term goal that you're still trying to achieve? Have any of you got one that you just won't quit on? You just keep going. I might not have achieved it yet, but it's still, I think about it all the time. I work towards it all the time. You know, one of those sort of goals. Do any of you have that? Now, here's a little thing. If I don't know if I talked about it, but about 2 weeks ago, I lost one of my earrings. And I heard it drop onto the tile floor in the bathroom, and I heard it bounce. But do you think I could find it? And I literally spent probably 2 days trying to find it, going, where could it have possibly gone to? And what I thought was the only thing that made any sense to me, it must have bounced into the waste paper basket, because I emptied that before I realized that I shouldn't have done. However, I was busy doing something else. Isn't that amazing how that always happens? I was busy doing something else this week, and I was cleaning out the bottom of a closet in the kitchen, a long way away. And guess what I found? The earring. And the interesting thing to me was that I probably did sweep it up, but it must have been on the dark floor here that I didn't see it. And then I swept everything. What I do is all week, I just sweep everything into that closet. And then once a week, I go down and, what do you call it? Take the dustpan and brush and put it all away. So there it was. And so I was very pleased about that, to find that. Judy's saying, I have a few I'm working towards: my commitment to exercise and my creativity. Yes, I'm going to get onto the creative side as well in a second, Jody. So I am delighted. Now, for those of you who don't know, Jody is committed to exercise, even though she cannot stand for more than, did you say 2 minutes, Jody? I just want to make sure I'm telling the truth here. So the question is it possible to exercise when you cannot stand for very long? So Jody's just confirming it is 2 minutes. So I think an awful lot of people have got an awful lot of excuses why they can't exercise. It was interesting. I was talking to Lauren this week, for those of you who know Lauren in Tasmania, and she said, well, she's still waiting for the program to put into her Wii. And I said, you don't need the program. Jody doesn't have the program. Really, we have discovered that there are incredible virtual walks on YouTube that you can put on, and you can just walk in place for whatever time. Now, Jody, because she cannot walk, she can only stand for 2 minutes. Jody has learned to do arm rolls, and we have proven time and time again that you can sit and do arm rolls like this, and it will turn into cardio exercise. It's amazing. And I won't do it again today, but, I've got a tracker on my wrist, and I have been able to show that you can do that. Now, I've got one program that I do on my Wii, and that is on the resort disc that I have. It's got a cycling thing, and the way that you cycle is to go like this. Well, I want to tell you that I do I do 3 consecutive races, one after the other. And you want to see what happens to my heart rate on that one. Why? Because I'm constantly bending like this and doing all sorts of things. And you don't think that it's exercise until you pick up your phone afterwards. Hang on a second. Again, let me just show you. Because I think it's one thing to talk about it. There's another thing to see it. Where do I need to be to show you that? Yes, there. So you can see, and here, just how much that pushes my heart rate up. And then All right, look at yesterday's. I guess you know when I was exercising yesterday. So to me, it's about, I find that fascinating that now I'm doing different things. I think yesterday I decided I wasn't going to run. I was going to do some cycling because that uses different muscles. It uses these, my flabby muscles, like this. And then also I did some bowling, which again is twisting if you think about it. The other one I like is canoeing because that one uses, and that definitely gets very aerobic for me. So the thing is, do you need to have a program to do that, or can you watch the news going, pretending that you're canoeing and twisting your torso? And so that's why I said to Lauren, you don't need a program. What you need is to want to move and do things in terms of movement. So has anybody done any? I know Jody has this week. And Jody, you've been doing the arm rolls and leg exercises as well, right? And the question is, are you finding that your endurance is improving? Because what really has stunned me, as I said, was that I started out where, doing 15 minutes was a big deal. And yet now I don't feel 30 minutes is enough. I feel like I need to be doing 45. Now, I know what you're probably saying. You're probably saying, Sal, I don't have 45 minutes in my day to do that. And I say, have you seen how much time you spend watching the idiot movies on YouTube? When I say the idiot movies, you know what I mean. Or on Facebook. Because that's what I've cut out. I've cut out a lot of time that I used to spend, 45 ways to cook an egg. I've stopped watching a lot of those things to make the time so that I can do the exercise. So Jody is saying, yes, and she's using hand weights. By the way, if you haven't got hand weights, what could you use? We're a group of people that talk about not what we can't do, but what can we do. If you haven't got hand weights, a couple of cans of soup would work really well. I don't know how much a can of soup weighs, but it definitely acts as a weight. A couple of bottles of water is a good weight as well. So Jody's saying the endurance is slowly improving. I went from 15 to 20 minutes. Now, one of the things I was talking about to Lauren was what surprises me is I had not intentionally increased things. And Jody is saying the same thing, that I found that as I got stronger, I wanted to do a bit more. I kept saying, well, that's fine, but I'd like to do another 5 minutes or 10. And then I found I was automatically doing 20 minutes a day, not 15. And then I moved to 30 minutes a day and not 20. And now I'm I'm moving up to 45 minutes. So interesting. So the thing is this, do you all agree that it is true that we will always make time for the things that we want to do? Think about that. We will always make time for the things we want to do, and we will always have excuses for the things we don't want to do. Hi, Sandy. Good to see you. Sandy's saying, I'm listening, but not on the computer, so may not chat much. Been having technical issues the entire week. Well, it's always wonderful to have you there. All right, so a Campbell's soup. Jody does a great job at researching these things. A Campbell's soup is 10.5 ounces. All right, so Jeannie's saying excuses versus attempts. Yeah, I found that, let me give you an example of that. I had a situation yesterday where I took all of my garbage down. And as you probably know, I'm 4 floors up. So I took all my garbage down to the area where we put all the recycling and the garbage and the organics and everything. And to my horror, after I got down 4 floors, I found out that I'd forgotten my organics. So what are my choices? My choices are that I can come all the way back up and then do the organics another day. Or I can come all the way up, collect the organics bin, and then go all the way back down 4 floors again. Now, which do you think I did? Do you think that I went, okay, fine, I've been down once today, so I'll, pop the organics down tomorrow? Or do you think I came all the way back up, picked up the organics and went all the way back down again? You see, the thing that I did was when I was down there and realized that I had forgotten the organics bin, I have a choice to make. And I, realized what my choices were. And then I smiled and said, hey, I need the exercise. So what I did was I came all the way back up the 4 floors, and then I picked up my organics bin and went all the way down again. But I wasn't muttering or miserable. I was going, good exercise. Yeah, Jeannie's saying that she was so full of joy when she heard that her grandson grew and harvested radishes at school. I don't know about the rest of you, but I think that teaching children to grow vegetables is a really important thing for us to do. But Jeannie's saying, I immediately thought of you, Sal. And, I want to tell you, I love that, except you need to just know that there's something wrong with the soil at my house, because my radishes did not grow. It was just amazing. The tops grew beautifully, but the actual radish bit, nothing. I think I had one, and that was a double one, if I remember correctly. But the rest of them, they grew beautifully from the ground up, but nothing went below. So this year I have to test that soil and find out what's wrong with it. Now, I also had joy this week. I promised you guys, and it's not here. Hang on a second. Oh, I'll do it at the next broadcast. I promised you guys that I would update my countdown calendar, and I did. And so when we do the broadcast this evening, Jody, feel free to bug me for the countdown, because I have now updated it all. And so I felt good about that. I've been putting that off for quite a while. But it is amazing how close we are already to things like Lent and Easter, and Valentine's Day is just around the corner. And so it's a good job that I got that done. I found some interesting quotes this week about fear, because I think it's going to be a week where a lot of people feel fearful. And I found this quote, and it says, fear is a feeling that is stronger than love. Did you know that? That fear is a feeling that is stronger than love. Now, I quote Susan Jeffers quite often in terms of fear. She wrote an incredible book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And so one of the things that if you get feelings of fear, the way to deal with fear is to embrace it and go, okay, I'm scared. That's okay. It's what I do with being scared. Do I go bury my head on the sand and pretend I am not? Or do I do something with that energy? Or what am I going to do as I'm fearful? And we're going to be talking about that in a moment. I don't know about the rest of you, but I was pretty fearful, and I still am, for the people who were in the Capitol when the riot went down, other than the police that I've talked about. But I was really fearful for the members that were there, because, you know, a lot of them are not young people. And you think about it, to go through, you know, literally there's a mob bent on causing you bodily harm. I mean, as I said, you know, I was horrified to hear that one of the goals was to find Pence and kill him. To me, I mean, that must have been so scary for everybody involved. And I wonder how they're dealing with, you know, being there on next Wednesday for the inauguration. It's going to be very difficult for a lot of them. And then I don't know about the rest of you, but I was pretty horrified, that would be my feeling, to hear that there was, and we're still waiting to hear the outcome of this, but I believe that there was like an inside job. There were people inside the Capitol that were helping them. And that to me was, you know, pretty scary as well. But such is life, right? Nelson Mandela said, "I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not the one who doesn't feel afraid, but the one who conquers that fear." So I'm pretty certain we are going to see incredible bravery in the coming week of people who probably are scared witless, who will be there for the inauguration. Did I see that J-Lo is going to be performing? I mean, good, you know, can you imagine? So it's going to be a pretty difficult time, I think, for a lot of people. Another joy I had, and I think I talked a little bit about this last week, was I'm really enjoying roasted cabbage. And I keep talking about it because it's not a vegetable that I normally buy. But I find that, you know, just tossing it in a little bit of oil and then, you know, roasting it along with my other vegetables, it's almost like fried onions. You know, it tastes so good. And, you know, occasionally I will just now fry some up and have them as a snack. So it's the time of year when cabbage is, you know, pretty good everywhere. So I haven't tried it with a Savoy cabbage. That's the very green, veiny one. I've just done it with a regular cabbage, but I just really do recommend it. I also am finding I'm adding cabbage to a lot of my meals now that I wouldn't normally have done. So I'm trying to, you know, up the vegetable intake because I'm trying to balance out my blood sugar again. Oh, interesting. Jeannie's saying I bought a head of Savoy cabbage recently to use in soups, etc. But I do not know what to do with it. It was great in a soup. I want to tell you that, you know, just Google it, Jeannie, what to do with Savoy cabbage. I was watching earlier this morning when I couldn't sleep, I was watching a video and it probably had about 8 different wonderful ideas, things to do with Savoy cabbage. So, you know, but you know, so literally to use it to line a casserole dish and then, you know, put like layers of food and then more of it on top. But it's, you know, it's such a pretty looking cabbage, the Savoy one, I think, right? So try that. Did anybody have any chaos this week? I don't think I had chaos this week. Not that I took a note of, anyway. I don't know if you've noticed how many joyful things I had, and I do encourage you all, if you don't do it, have a book somewhere, a daytime, a notebook, whatever. And, you know, during the week, start writing down your feelings. You know, I felt happy. Oh, I really felt excited. Let me write that down. I really felt grateful. Let me write that down. All right. And then come to the broadcast and share those feelings. Because when you realize just how many joyful feelings you have, it's really, I think the more you can recognize, the more you will have. Judy's saying, I do stuffed cabbage like my mom. Your mom was a stuffed cabbage? No, I understand that. Yes, but that's, again, that is one of those recipes, Jeannie, that we grew up on, that a lot of people, might never have had necessarily. And yeah, Eastern Europe. Yeah, Eastern European. That's what I'm saying. Europe, stuffed cabbage was part of our diet. And by the way, I would think in the Savoy cabbage, that would be great. And that's what a lot of these casserole type things were with the Savoy, were layers of ground beef and cheese and all sorts of things, and then more cabbage in between and so forth. Yes, and Jody's saying, I grew up on stuffed cabbage. Yeah, anybody else? Has anybody never had it? How about that one? Just interested to know if anybody has not had it. Okay, here's a nice quote, and it says, there are times when fear is good. It must be kept. It must be kept its watchful place at the heart's control. It's a good idea to have fear. It could save your life, quite honestly. And that is why we have that thing about when we go into fear, we get two choices. Do you want to fight or do you want to flight? Fight or flight reaction comes in. Do you want to go towards what is fearful for you, or do you want to run away from it? Chip saying she's never had stuffed cabbage. Okay, time to have a look at it, maybe. And Jeannie's saying that Martha Stewart's mother did stuffed cabbage similar to the way that we do it. Yes. And so everybody's got their own version of it, and depending where you grew up. But it definitely is something that I think people had more in Europe than maybe here in North America. But if you have European ancestors, the chances are that you grew up eating it. People used it instead of pasta in a way. It was just like, instead of having lasagna, they would have layers of cabbage. But then I saw one recipe, which I thought was really nice, where they had lasagna and then one of those wonderful leaves from a Savoy cabbage, and then another layer of meat and another layer of cheese, and then so forth. It was really good. That was good. This one. I want you to remember this week. Fear, it's just a feeling, and you can get over it. Oh, Jody's suggesting cabbage with mushrooms. Yeah, awesome. So I want to just get some idea of, do we remember that we were fearful of 9/11? We were fearful after the death of Princess Diana, but we got over it. So my question is, again, and I will keep asking this weekend, what did you do to deal with the fear and get grounded again after 9/11? What did it take for you to feel safe again? Or for some of you, you may never have felt safe again. Now, one of the things that I know I need to do when I get fearful or out of control in that way, is I need to use my right brain, and that's be creative. And as some of you saw, I actually dug out the paints that I've been slowly collecting here, ready for the start of the new year. And I did this painting. Now, the interesting thing was, I didn't actually think I was going to do this. Hang on, let me just see what Jeannie's saying here. Jeannie's saying, fear. My daughter had a root canal. She was scared, but we prayed together and trusted. Yeah, you know, it's funny, Jeannie, isn't it, that she was saying that she had 4 miserable roots. I had 1 wisdom tooth with 4 roots on it. Not a wisdom tooth, no. 1 root canal where they had, and the reason that I found that out was they kept giving me the injection, and I could still feel the pain, and I'm going, I don't know why. And they realized that I had an extra root that they hadn't got the stuff in. But interesting. Okay, so let me go back to this. So what I did was I wanted to start painting, but I didn't want to waste canvases because I haven't painted for a while. So what I wanted to do was to show you the joy of being who I am, because what this is not a piece of canvas. It's one of the flaps of an Amazon box. Now, you're saying, but will it last? Will it do this, that? I have a painting in my house, well, actually it's in storage at the moment, that I did on a piece of cardboard more than 30 years ago, and it still looks great. So this one, my next challenge is to get it framed. And my question is, what color frame? Hang on a second. Do you think a white frame? Possibly not. Let's have a look at this. A black frame. Yeah, maybe. No, it's not, Jody. It's a piece of, you see, but you wouldn't know it, would you? I mean, except that I didn't cut this bit straight, but you wouldn't know it. And that's why I'm saying that people will say to me, oh, well, I'd love to paint, but I can't afford the canvases. Well, hello. Start reusing and recycling. And how many of you know I'm going to get that framed? I'm going to sign it when it's properly dry, but I'm going to get it framed, and I will put it in my house, probably in my bedroom. Yes, I would think a black frame, but what I'm thinking is that the one wall in my bedroom, I want to do it a deep charcoal, deeper than this. And I was thinking, oh, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, so if it's against this, what color would you do the frame? Still do it medium gray? I think probably that's a challenge, isn't it? You see, it's going to be on, there we go. If you can imagine that black there, it's going to be a pretty deep charcoal color. Anyway, we'll see. Maybe I'll go to a framer and ask them, where I can take a color swatch. But how many of you would frame a piece of cardboard? You see, I've done it, and I know how great it looks if you frame it properly. Now, I could also cut it and make it a smaller picture, but I probably won't. I'll probably have a frame made to fit it. So, do you think that it gave me joy? Quite honestly, when I was painting it, I didn't necessarily like it that much. And the funny thing was, by the time I finished it and let it dry for 2 days, every time I looked at it, I liked it better. So interesting. So and the reason I did that is I wanted to do a big one of a skyscraper, a cityscape. I want to do a big one for my house. So not necessarily the same or the same colors, but I've never done a cityscape before, so I thought I'd just try one. And I just made it up as I went along. So yeah, it did give me great joy, but I had to make time to do it. That's the point that I'm trying to say. If you don't make time to do joyful things, you won't find it. So what is it that gives you the feeling of joy that you need to do this week to balance out the fear? Do you understand what I'm saying? What is it that you need to do creatively this week to help balance out the fear you may have about what may happen in the coming week? Peter McWilliams said that fear is the energy to do your best in a new situation. The feeling of fear, anxiety, nervousness, shyness, or any part of those aliases is really preparation energy. It's getting you ready to excel, to succeed, to do your best and to learn the most. So we've been through really scary times before. You know, if you've lived through 9/11, if you lived through, various things. I'm thinking I lived through all the riots about Vietnam. And so I look at it and go, scary times. I don't know if any of you like me are old enough to remember the Bay of Pigs, where literally we were a hair away from throwing nukes onto Cuba and getting them back again. So, it was so scary, the Bay of Pigs. I remember that. And so it is important to understand that we will survive this. We just need to get to the other side of it. And it could get worse before it gets better. And if you are prepared for that and make sure you stay safe, it'll be easier for you to cope with it. So Jody is saying for her, she needs to spend some time with music and for crafting. Yes, if you do have the ability to be a crafter, I would make sure you do some crafts this week. Okay, so this is from Danny Pedrosa and said, fear is feeling. It is not what you think. All right, it's a feeling, it's not a thought. And that feeling keeps your body in every way to 100% and makes you react like a wild animal. It gives you the extra that you have in a norm. And that doesn't even make sense to me. I'll forget that one. I don't think I just read it badly. Winston Churchill said this. He said, success is not final. Failure is not fatal. And it is the courage to continue that counts. Now, I don't know about you, but I think we're going to see incredible courage from the police in the Capitol, who a week ago had their lives on the line, literally. And, they're going to have to stand up and be counted again without their usual boss, because I think he stood down. But, it's going to be interesting. But from what I'm seeing, they're doing a really good job of trying to, secure the perimeter this time. Chip is saying right now, I'm reorganizing and really downsizing, and that brings me joy and keeps me occupied. Good for you, Chip. So if you are struggling with fear and concern, the whole trick is to occupy your mind on something else. I think It's a great time to do some spring cleaning. It's a great time to pull your closet apart and put it back together again. It is a great time to do those things, Chip. Well done. And it does, without any doubt, give you back that feeling of accomplishment. And the same way as I was pretty surprised when I finished this and went, I like that. I like it enough to put a frame around it. That is the interesting part to me, is that, it's good for us to feel that. And so organizing, reorganizing, take a drawer and take everything out of it and put everything back neatly and only put back 50% of the crud. You know what I mean? I'm absolutely horrified, quite honestly. The feeling would be horror as to how much I have already accumulated in this apartment since I've been here. And so much of it is food. It's scary. So I am pretty certain that I was meant to go and see my house yesterday. And now I'm thinking about going to see it between the two broadcasts, because I've got a feeling that my new roof could be on by now. And there's part of me going, once they got the roof on, you understand everything else then will start to go pretty quickly. It's getting that roof on, that's the first thing. And they can't do anything until that roof is on to protect everything inside. Now, there is at the moment some roof on it, and there's some tarps on it and so forth. So to me, that's going to be really interesting to see that. And I'm pretty certain, Jeannie, that you're saying you've already now got steps down into the basement. So you're in that stage where any minute now, you're going to have new rooms to look at and new things to work with. And I wondered, have you got any steps forward, Jeannie, with the money side of it? Because I think last time you were talking about it, you still had quite a fight going on about the value of things. And I wondered if you've got any progress on that. And if so, let us know. George Martin said, "There is no shame in fear. My father told me what matters is how we face it." Think about that. If everything that's going on in the US at the moment is scaring you, that's not a bad thing. It should scare you. Your whole democracy is on the line in some ways. Your constitution, which has held you strong for so many hundreds of years, suddenly is, in fear of being affected quite severely. And so I think it's perfectly natural to be fearful, but I do believe in hope. I don't know about the rest of you. I do believe that there are people that are good and angry, and we need to listen to them and make sure that they understand there's a difference between being a patriot and then killing people. That's or you don't come out with your guns, people. This is not the way to do it. It's not the way that we do it. If you want to make change, you go ahead and protest, but leave your guns at home, people, because that's called murder, and that we don't want in any country. Okay, so Jeannie's saying we found that our insurance company was sold, and that was one of the reasons for our problems. We finished an important letter today. We intend to accept some monies, but want more. It's an ongoing matter. Yes, the good news is, Jeannie, don't let them close the file. You know, they'll come to you and ask you to sign off on it, and you don't bother. You know, just keep it open until you're both going to have to. They're going to have to pay a bit more than they want to. You're going to get a bit less than you want. But it's a case of, it would be a really good time to study negotiation, Jeannie. You know what I mean? The base points of negotiation. That would be a really good thing to spend a bit of time studying, so that you don't get angry. So you just go, no, I understand that's what you want to give us, but unfortunately, that is not acceptable. So if you want to close the file, we're going to have to look at it again. And find out those little things that you can do. Because what I do know, Jeannie, is one of the things that they're very keen to do is get that file closed and move on to the next one. And so the fact that you don't sign off on it is part of your negotiation tactic, as far as I'm concerned. Learn to embrace the fear of feeling about what it is to contemplate what is to know true pain. Because when I had nothing and no one, I always had pain. So for those of you who are alone, understand that with the pandemic, with the lockdowns, with everything else, you are likely to feel more than somebody maybe who's living with a spouse or a friend, where they can talk about things every day and hash it out. And so be aware that you will feel in some ways more pain than somebody who lives with somebody, and that will be quite normal. Now, I put in an order on Wish this last week. In fact, I did it last week. And when I put the order in, I realized I'd made a mistake. Have you ever done that? And I wished I hadn't put the order in, but I did. And so I just took a deep breath and said, it is what it is, let it be. But then the funny thing is, I must have said it, I really don't want those. I think I must have said that. Because the next thing I know, that order went wrong. How many of you are chuckling? The order went wrong. And it was two different parts of an order, and they both went wrong. And I got a notification from Wish that unfortunately they were unable to complete the order of those two items because they were out of stock. And I went, thank you. And obviously they wanted me to find alternatives to those things. And I did. I found two things that I wanted far more than the things that I made the mess on. So how many of you can see the humor in that? It was just like, no coincidences, right, Jody? But if you don't say to the universe, I really don't want those, but then I accepted that I'd made a mistake and I let it go. But then the universe came back and both those items, two different orders, both said they were out of stock. And I went, thank you. Did anybody else have that sort of thing happen to them this week? And how does it feel? I don't know. I was amused. I really was. That was my feeling. I just went, just like, as you've heard me talk over the years and how often that sort of thing happens to me. And I don't think it's by chance. It was said that anxiety was born in the very same moment as mankind. And since we will never be able to master it, we will have to learn to live with it, just as we have learned to live with storms. Yeah, how many of you are still scared of thunderstorms? You know, and it's like, if you know there's a thunderstorm coming, what do you do? And for those of you who live in Tornado Alley, when you know that it is tornado season and you hear that warning go out, what do you do to keep calm? Or what do you do? I mean, what is it? I think you guys have a lot to teach other people because any one of those tornadoes could be devastating to you. I always remember one of my viewers moved from wherever she used to live. I think she lived in Utah or something. Anyway, she moved to Oklahoma and, was dead center of Tornado Alley. And I just said to her, wow, that must be so scary to live in an area where those tornadoes go through regularly. It's not just a once in a lifetime thing, they go through every year. So have any of you lived in that sort of environment? Maybe lived with a lot of hurricanes, lived somewhere where there were a lot of hurricanes coming through. I'm thinking of the Gulf Coast or something. So, what do you do to keep yourself calm? Because that's what we need this week. Benjamin Franklin said, do not fear mistakes. You will know failure. Continue to reach out. You see, one of the things about life is that if we don't want to do anything for fear that we might fail, then we won't do anything. And so it's really important that we look at things in our lives and go, yeah, this is going to be scary, but have faith that from this scary time, we will grow and have hopefully, a much different environment afterwards. I look at all the major, I said this last week, I don't know many things that were major changes that weren't started by some sort of a unfortunate situation. I'm thinking, the Kent riots meant that the Vietnam War stopped, and I could go right the way through from all these things. And, you look at it and you also go, we've got this fear on top of fear because we're still dealing with the fear of the pandemic. And now we've got this added insurrection type fear going on top of it. So very important that we keep self-control. So fear, it said, sometimes I feel like telling you about my feelings, but again, I move my steps back in fear. Fear takes away the courage. Fear is feeling which always stops a person from doing what he or she likes. And if we know that to be true, this is why it is so important that this week you do a lot of things you like to do. If you like to bake, bake this week. Pretend it's Christmas again. Oh, Jody's saying, I lived near Buffalo. There were a lot of intense snowstorms that rendered us homebound for a week at a time. We learned the value of having an extra freezer. So maybe that's why I buy too much food. Yes, you know something? Isn't it funny? There's something as well about, I lived in Africa, and I think this storing up food in the freezer thing, I think I started that in Africa. And yet the funny thing is that I prefer fresh food. How about the rest of you? Given a choice, I will make myself a fresh meal every day with fresh vegetables and things rather than frozen. But I can assure you that my freezer here is just about full. So I need to start working at cleaning it up because hopefully in a couple of months I'll be going home. All right, now listen to this one. It said, Sarah Brennan said, fear is useless. Either something happens or it doesn't. If it doesn't, you have wasted time. You've wasted time being afraid. And if it does, you've wasted time that could have been spent sharpening your weapons. So it doesn't mean literally sharpening your weapons. It means getting yourself prepared for what might happen. Because as we know, right, if we can be prepared for something, it doesn't hit us as hard. Now, I got a bit of a scare this week. I have been aware that my sister has been having quite a lot of trouble with AFib, with her heart. And my sister is just about to turn 80. And literally, she was scared to go to sleep for fear that she might not wake up again. And I had a feeling of helplessness because, there's not much I can do to help her because she lives in the States. And so here again, another situation. I've got a friend whose husband died that I cannot do much to help because of the pandemic. I've got a sister sitting in the States with heart issues. So I'm feeling a little helpless on a number of fronts. So can you see how important it is that I do things that I can do to balance out the things that I can't? And I have decided that what I'm going to do is I'm going to order up some seedlings. And even though I am away from home, I'm going to start planting some seedlings here. And I was thinking that, I might make myself a mini greenhouse out on my patio so that the heat from my bedroom, can create a sort of mini greenhouse thing. And, you know me, if I can do it, I will. Again, creative use of a lot of Amazon boxes. I will create a mini greenhouse here and start growing some veg. I'd like to start growing some tomatoes and peppers and things, ready for the spring. Oh, thank you, Jody. Jody's saying that she's sorry to hear that and prayers going up for my sister. That's very kind of you. So again, remembering that we've started a new year and that we are doing the best we can to cope with all that's going on, what else could you do to be kinder to yourself this week? What would make you feel like a good person? How about that one? Right? What would you need to do to feel like you've done a good thing this week? Not just for yourself, but maybe for others. Or what have you done in the past week that made you feel that you had contributed to somebody else's life? I was busy talking to somebody that I know about my experience with the exercise, which was, I had it wrong for so long that I really didn't have to leave the house to do exercise. I just needed to know that I needed to move some more. And I made a commitment to myself that I was going to do 5,000 steps a day on average. And I am now going, I really do think that I am, just going to work to see how much I can do and how good my endurance is. It's, it's not all about losing weight. It's about, am I building strength in my muscles again? Because I realized that for a large part, a lot of my muscles had atrophied and now I'm retraining them. Yes, Jody's saying to do something for somebody else. Random act of kindness, giving people my undivided attention brings me joy. Yeah. Now, Jody, you were saying that you didn't, well, first of all, let me just say that, I had 4 hours sleep last night at most. And I was laughing at myself because the one thing that I'm saying, how do I feel about that? And I said to myself, I said, this feels like December. That feeling when I've been through December and I haven't had any sleep. That's how I felt this morning until I talked to Jody and I found out that Jody had only had 2 hours sleep last night. So Jody, isn't it amazing that even though we both had a very difficult night, that we're both here and doing this? Why is that? You see, and that's what I keep trying to explain to people, that you will always do what you want to do, regardless if you haven't had enough sleep or you're not feeling well. And as some of you can probably hear, that Yvonne always says this to me, be careful when you haven't had enough sleep because your voice goes when you haven't had enough sleep. And I don't know if you can hear it, but it sounds like I've got a bit of laryngitis going on, and it's because I haven't had enough sleep. So to me, it's a very important thing to know. You will still do what you want to do. Could I have canceled today's broadcast? Yeah, sure. It wasn't that I was not well. I was just tired. And I will sleep a bit between the two broadcasts. Yeah, Jody's saying, yes, I can relate to that December feeling. It's a very specific and odd feeling. Yes, I don't know about you, but it hits me in the head where my head is sort of has a strange feeling to it, and then it hits my throat. I wondered if we were talking about feeling healthier. Have any of you felt healthier this week than you did, the couple of weeks before, for example? I definitely am noticing that I'm beginning to get my eating routine coming back. It's a slow process. And because of that, slowly my blood sugar is beginning to drop at last. But it's a slow process. And it wasn't helped last night when, I've now become an expert at making fudge. And I can make a quick batch of 4 pieces of fudge now. But again, isn't it funny? What I look at is I can do that if I eat really carefully during the day. And chocolate isn't that bad for you. And marshmallow, that's how I make my fudge. And it's sort of like, I will keep working at what can I eat, not what can't I eat. Can I have fudge? It means I will have to struggle more with my eating, but, I'm prepared to make adjustments. And I have got a lot of chocolate left over. And I know you're saying pack it away, Sal, so you can't see it. I can't throw it away. There's no way I can throw it away. It's just not something I'm capable of doing. No, it's not true. Something I choose not to do. Failure is a feeling long before it becomes an actual result. It is a vulnerability that breeds with self-doubt and then is escalated, often deliberately, by fear. Have any of you ended a relationship because you feared the other person was going to end it? And by the way, that was a quote from Michelle Obama, that failure is a feeling long before it becomes an actual result. I think I'm going to fail, and therefore I do. Jody's saying, I feel healthier, even though I've only finished 3 virtual walks. My eating habits are back on track for the most part. Yes. And so good for you, Jody. I'm very proud of you. And how can we best support you in this journey? What is it that we can do to support you, Jody? Because you spend your days supporting everybody else. I'd like to know, how can we best support you in this? When do you have your results from that psych evaluation you had to have done to get the operation done? Or have you had that result already? I meant to ask you about that this week and I forgot. I'd be interested in. Okay, I'll carry on. Inaction breeds doubt and fear. Action breeds confidence and courage. If you want to conquer fear, do not sit at home and think about it. Go out and get busy. Dale Carnegie said that. And that's really what I'm saying this week, because there's going to be a lot of bad news going on. This week, make sure you get out and you do things. Don't watch too much television. Get out and do things that make you happy. Jody's saying, you already give me all the support I could ask for, and I couldn't do this without your help. Well, so we shouldn't give you any support. I don't think that's possible. Oh, the paperwork about that thing was mailed. I'm waiting for a call to book the interview that goes along with the paperwork. Okay, so that'll be, I really record it, Jody. I bet you it's going to be interesting. Oh, wait a minute. You probably have to tell them if you're going to record it, right? But it would be interesting for you to, I don't know about you, but when you go through an important interview like that, I find that I don't necessarily remember all that was said. And therefore, especially because I am on my own, I quite often ask if I can record it so that I can go back over the important parts later. So if you're going to be, or mind you, you'll have Lionel with you probably, right? So that helps. All right, so as you go into this week, oh, it's going to be on Zoom. Can you keep a Zoom broadcast? I'm pretty sure you probably can. Does anybody know that after you've finished a Zoom meeting, can you keep that footage and see it again? Or, just have Lionel sit there with his phone and record it for you. But you'll have to let them know that you're recording it. I think it's law in the States that you have to let the other person know you're recording something. Yeah, I do a bit of research into that. And also, and what I would definitely say to them that you'd like to just advise them that you're going to record it just so that you can go back and replay what was said so you can understand, because, sometimes you find these medical interviews are a little scary, and that you like to be able to go back and find out what was actually said, not what you thought they said. I actually had one doctor who told me that he did not allow me to record him. I found that interesting. I said, really? They went, why would that be? And the reason I wanted to record him is because he told me something one day, and when I quoted him on it, he said that I'd made it up. And I said, no, actually, you said that. And so the next time I went there, I wanted to record it. And I still think that I have the right to do that. All right, so Jody's saying you can record a Zoom call from what I'm reading. I will ask if she has any problems with you recording it. Yes, and the whole thing is explain the why. Explain the why, all right? I think it's quite normal that you'd be a little bit, stressed about that interview, and you're not well anyway, and therefore you'd like to make sure that you understand everything that was said. Good. So we look at today and we go, this is a whole new week. What is it that you feel about the coming week, and what do you feel you can do about it? Remembering that don't concentrate on what you can't do, concentrate on what you can. And, I ask you all to think about this. As soon as you get up every day, decide what you're going to do with your day, and decide, have I got enough things that I can work on to keep me distracted? Jody, we were talking last week about your pain and people who suffer from chronic pain. And one of the ways, if I understood correctly, one of the ways that you deal with chronic pain is you do things to distract yourself away from thinking about it. Am I correct in that? And so whenever we have the possibility of pain, be that emotional or physical, it is important that we do things that will distract ourselves. And you were saying you use music to distract yourself, you use creativity. Are there any other ways? I think you bake sometimes to distract yourself. Am I correct? And I'd be interested when we can get hold of Katie again and see what some of her distractions, what does she do that maybe would help people understand? Because I think, it is something that we can do even with emotional pain. And if we know that it works, not just taking pills, but we actually have input and we have the ability to help our minds. I'm thinking about, Jody, am I correct that does temperature affect the pain, hot and cold? And if so, is it something that is a good thing to do or a bad thing? Because I'm thinking even emotionally, do things that challenge you would use different parts of your brain. Doing things that make you feel warm and fuzzy, like baking, or maybe try the pavlova this week. I'm thinking about doing that this week. I think I'll try making pavlova. And, so that I look at it and go, there are so many things we can do if we want to. So Jody's saying, yes, to distract herself away from pain, which she suffers all the time, baking, music, reading, prayer, meditation. I try to think around the pain, to separate it from me. Yes. One of the things that I heard from it wasn't a doctor, but somebody that I knew that was very wise said to me once, you need to get outside it and then look at yourself from the outside in. Does that make sense, Jody? In other words, sort of imagine yourself looking at yourself with pain. Not that you're it, you're outside looking back at it. And for some reason, that seems to help. All right, so Jody's saying temperature definitely has a great impact on my pain. I think it differs for each person. So what I'm trying to find out, Jody, so other people can learn from it as well, which is when you are in pain, do you change the temperatures? Do you put, hot things and then cold things to try and control it? Or, do you put a heating pad to try and ease it and maybe a cold pack later, just so that it messes with the, I think it messes with the circuitry a little bit. I, funny enough, noticed that, I've got arthritis in this one joint, and it can be a real bear some days. And what I find is that really certain times of the day that I can really feel it. And again, depending what the weather's doing, I really feel it. Why is that? Why does weather affect it? It's just like, does it know it's cold out there or raining out there? It's, why does that affect it? Does anybody know? So my question as well is, this week, if you believed in yourself, in what way would you be different? If you really believed in yourself this week, what would you do differently? Anybody got any input on that one? If you really believed in yourself, okay, so Jody saying that somebody who suffers from chronic pain, in other words, she has it all the time. She said, I have hot packs, cold packs, fans, and a heated blanket. Interesting. So is it about that I'm trying to just try and imagine an easy way of saying this. Does it interrupt the circuitry of ow, 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 and now suddenly the cold numbs it for a while, or the heat soothes it for a while, and why that is so important? Again, what I'm trying to do is to find the analogy between physical pain and emotional pain, that there are ways to cool emotional pain. There are ways to warm, your emotions. And if you do that when you are fearful, to be aware that do something, literally challenge yourself if you are feeling a little bit insecure or scared. Ask yourself, what would I do if I was not feeling scared today? And do it. Or make a plan, I try and segment my day into different slots. This is the time when I exercise. This is the time when I clean my house. This is the time when I do this. I try and have set days and times when I do these things. There you go. Jody's telling me that the temperature changes outside causes by the barometric pressure to change. We know about that. And then causes the joints to expand. So when the barometric pressure drops, then the joints expand, and that's why they become inflamed and hurt. Interesting. Thank you, Jody. In what ways, let me ask you, could you communicate better with your friends this week? Maybe take that as a distraction. I don't know if that works for you as well, Jody, is, to actually, talk to your friends. And what I would do is have a list of, talking points like they do on television. They have sort of things that they want to say, but literally write a list and go, okay, I'm going to spend half an hour and catch up with so-and-so this week. Why? It will help occupy my mind. I really recommend that. Think of somebody you haven't spoken to for quite a while and do that for a couple of people if you can. There we go. Jodie's saying the cold packs work for her. Interrupt the nerve pathway. Exactly, Sal. It dulls the ouch signal to the brain. And that's what I was thinking. That's what we need to do, is interrupt that signal in some way. Sleep, obviously, for some people will help the pain. And so I look at this whole week and think, this is going to be a great time for us to feel. This is going to be a great time to find out what we are fearful of. And I wonder if any of you, as we sort of wind this down, I wonder if any of you can let me know what it is that you are fearful of this week. What is it that scares you this week? And Jodie's just saying that the heat packs, decrease the pain by increasing the blood flow to the area to improve mobility in the area and the joint. Okay, so, and also, am I right, Jodie, that you found wearing a splint will also decrease the pain so that you're not overusing that joint? I've also found, I don't know about anybody else, but, and I find it frustrating for me, that in winter, my hands and my legs seem to get very dry. And, is it the heating? Is that what does it? But, I have to really make sure that I moisturize my hands a couple of times a day. Otherwise, I start getting really cracked skin and all sorts of things happening. And so be good to yourself this week is a really big thing. Be good to yourself and to those that you care about. Take that time and use it wisely. I heard a wonderful story about my one friend whose grandfather is 99 at the moment, and he had the COVID vaccine this week, and the family was really concerned because would he end up getting sick because he had the vaccine? And he apparently has done really well, and at 99 he said, no, I'm going to have that vaccine, thank you very much indeed. And he said he didn't even feel the needle go in. It was just like, and 48 hours later, he still hadn't had an adverse reaction. And I think he had the Pfizer one. So that was nice to hear. All right, so we're hearing from Jodie that she's fearful of unrest during the inauguration, but I'm managing my fear by staying occupied. Yes, I fear unrest. So let's not avoid that. Let's talk about that a little bit. What would unrest, civil unrest, how would that affect you? I was a bit concerned for my sister because she lives very close to the capital of Washington State. And, I'm going, she's not that many blocks away from the capital, and if there's unrest at her capital, it's pretty close to her. So I obviously am a little bit concerned about that. Interesting. Jody just is talking to me about the dry skin thing, and she's saying dry skin can cause psoriatic arthritis, right? I've got a psoriasis in my joints, and that's what Jody's saying, that the dry skin can cause that to flare up. So it's super important to keep our hands moisturized. Yes, I can really notice it in the winter. It's amazing how it flares. So yeah, it's a good regimen to just know. And also, I notice that my legs get itchy in the winter, obviously from dry skin as well. The other thing that I find fascinating, I don't know if anybody else, I've noticed that, where I sit here, and I spend obviously a fair amount of time here, I can actually see when I've been sitting, in the evening, and I get up and I go, I can actually see dry skin cells, on the floor, and I'm going, boy, I seem to be losing a lot of dry skin cells at the moment. So please, let's do that. Let's make sure we moisturize well in these coming couple of months before we start getting back into spring again. Can't come too soon for me. I just am not a winter person. All right, and it's said here, George Eliot said, there is no feeling except the extremes of fear and grief that does not find relief in music. And so one of the things I also said to somebody is, if you want to exercise but don't want to do a virtual walk or do anything else, literally, you don't want to watch one. I said, just put on some music that you love and understand that most songs are about 3 minutes. So if you want to do 10 minutes of exercise, listen to 3 songs. If you want to do 15, listen to 5 songs and sing along while you do some sort of movement. And you'll be amazed how that goes by quite quickly. Because I found one day I put on soft rock from the 60s and 70s. And boy, I knew the words to most of those songs. I had such fun. So Jeannie's saying she fears higher taxes, paying more for everything, including gasoline. Good thinking, Jeannie, very good thinking. Yes, there is no way that we will not have to pay higher taxes. All right, not just you in the States, but we in Canada, everybody around the world, because the cost of this pandemic is horrific. And so, absolutely, I agree with you. We should be prepared to pay more taxes. And for those of us who live on a limited budget because we're retired, or have lost our jobs or whatever, you're going, wow, that's going to be, it means we've got to adjust even more. And Jeannie's saying, including gasoline. Actually, I'm not as worried about gasoline because I don't use as much gas, but what I am worried about is the cost of food is going to go up astronomically as well. So we will learn to maybe eat more Savoy cabbage and make meals go farther. Jody is saying her general concern for the president-elect and vice president-elect and the transition of power. It affects me emotionally to a degree, although worrying is a complete waste of time and energy. Yes, Jody, you've come a long way on that one, that you can see that, we have to trust that this time they will keep them safe. And I say this time because I think, quite honestly, they were totally unprepared for what actually happened last week. They won't be totally unprepared again. And so I think that not just, funny enough, Jody, I'm not just concerned for the president-elect and vice president-elect. I am concerned for all members of Congress on both sides. Because if you remember, part of what they were screaming, as they came into the Capitol was find Pence and execute him. So it's not just, and what about those that just voted for impeachment? Will they be at risk? And, will they be at risk just going home? I believe that there's going to be a lot more security at train stations. And, a lot of those people commute by train. I believe that Vice President Biden, elect Biden, has been told not to go by train anymore. They don't want him traveling on a train anymore, which he used to do. Well, I'm just seeing something now that makes me angry. I'm just seeing that President Trump plans to leave the White House the morning of the inauguration to make sure he gets that coverage, I guess, on Inauguration Day. Isn't that sad? Anyway, we will see what we will see. So I think that there are going to be a number of really interesting moments for us to watch. We will never, ever see, I don't think, inauguration that is quite as scary as this one. And it's a bit, I keep thinking it's going to be a bit like watching a motor race, a Formula One race or something, where there's part of you waiting for something bad to happen, even though it may not, and let's hope that it doesn't. Yeah. How about this one? This is what life is: fear, rage, desire, love. To stop feeling emotions, to stop wanting to feel them, is to feel death. So we should expect this week to have those feelings. And it's okay to have those feelings. Let's do what we can to support one another. And there's part of me that almost wants to do a broadcast at the time of the inauguration, just so that, we can be a group of people supporting one another through what will be maybe a very scary time. I'm still thinking about that, but I might just put up a thing and ask people if they would like me to do that. The other thing is this: it will depend what channel you're watching it on as to what the feedback is. So maybe that would be interesting as well, to have different people watch it on different channels so that we can get, what are they saying out there in BBC? What are they saying from Al Jazeera? What are they saying, on Fox and Friends? What are they saying? And I think it would be quite interesting to hear the different interpretations of the same events. Oh, that's nice to hear. I'm just seeing that Vice President Pence actually called Vice President-elect Harris to offer aid and congratulations. Isn't that good? I'm pleased to hear that. Have we got to, does anybody know, have we got to the bottom of the why nobody gave the okay to bring in support? Why it took 2.5 hours to get that to happen? I'm still not clear on that in my mind. How about this one? Feeling fear is human, but conquering it will make you feel empowered, courageous, and proud. I gotta read that again. Feeling fear is human, but conquering it will make you feel empowered, courageous, and proud. Jeannie's saying, I believe it was the fault of the mayor of DC. I heard the mayor of DC say, Jeannie, and I could be wrong on this, but I seem to remember listening to the mayor of DC say that he kept calling to try, and he had them ready, but he couldn't release them without permission. And he couldn't get permission to release the National Guard. It wasn't that he wasn't ready. He was ready. Yeah, and I hear the Pentagon was not releasing. I believe there are two ways that you can do that. Either you get permission from the White House, or you get permission from the Pentagon. And I believe both of those. Oh, interesting, Jeannie. So, let's look into that a bit more and let's find out. Thank you. And I'll see if we can do a bit more research into that. And I am certain, then I thought that was the mayor of DC, or maybe it was the governor. Maybe the man is the governor, I think. My bad. Thank you for doing that. I think maybe he was the governor. All I know is he was almost in tears when he was talking about the fact that he had them ready and he couldn't let them, because it would need to cross a line, he'd have to have permission to do that. And it was just, to listen to him tell the story, it was quite frightening, quite honestly. Hi, Kimmy. Good to see you, honey. So let's take it easy on ourselves and each other. And let us keep notes. Can we do that this week? Can we keep notes as to what scares you? Keep notes of what brings you joy. Keep notes of your feelings this week, because it may be a really important part of your bag of tricks on how to deal with anything that challenges your normal life. And really be aware of the feelings that you have. And understand that each day you wake up to another day and you can start again. So Kimmy's saying, the town I live in, we have people like the ones that were at the riot. I think every town has people like that. We have people like that in Canada too, Kimmy. And they're talking up a big storm here as well. So it's not just, yes, it is scary. And that's why I was, focused so much on this during the broadcast. It's very scary, and you have, we just have to deal with it as best we can. And to know that, stay safe, do whatever you can. How about this one? Fear comes from uncertainty. When we are absolutely certain whether of our worth or worthlessness, we are almost impervious to fear. Thus, a feeling of utter unworthiness can be a source of courage. Oh, thanks, Jeannie. Jeannie's telling us that Muriel Bowser is the DC mayor. Yep, you're right. And I must have been listening to the governor when he was talking about it. I can see him. But thank you for the input there, Jeannie. Appreciate it. So I think it doesn't matter which side of the fence politically we sit. I believe that this is going to be a very challenging week for everybody, not just in the US. Not just in the US. Around the world, people are going to be a little scared. And I found it interesting hearing that there were 2 cops that actually were doing some sort of desk duty thing when they saw the riot. And they literally, wherever they were, they left their desks and said, there is no way I'm sitting here and doing paperwork when the Capitol is under attack. And they got up to go and help. And I thought that was an amazing, I think we'll hear a lot of those stories of great courage and people, you know, almost having that warlike mentality where, you know, I want to sign up for this and help protect the Capitol. So take it easy on yourself. Be aware that feelings are just that, feelings, and that you had scary feelings before and that you worked over it. Jody is adding, Muriel Bowser, the mayor of DC, wanted a light police force there to handle traffic flow, not security. 6 requests for the guard were delayed or denied. Yes, that's what I heard as well. And so that is what I want to know is, and I guess we will eventually find out why was 6 requests denied. That's the scary part. And who was it that, you know, at the Pentagon that was it Collins? Is it Collins? The guy that's the Secretary of Defense or whatever. Anyway, so it will be interesting when that all comes out. I'm sure there'll be a movie of it one day. And we will, I guess, get to see 2 different versions of it. But I do believe that it will be a lot better protected now. But even so, as I said, I think with all the assault rifles and everything else, anybody who goes to that inauguration, when you think of the snipers and everything else that could be angry, and you know who really believe what they believe and could be that angry. I know viewers that I've had that you know are quite capable of picking up a gun and going and doing this because of the way that they believe. And so I don't think it's what the founding fathers meant, but let's hope that people are kept under control and kept, you know, you're entitled to protest, but leave your guns at home, people. You can't go attacking people just because you don't like something. That is the scary part for me. Mark Esper is the Secretary of Defense. That's not the guy I'm thinking of. Who is the guy? What is the position of the guy Collins? I'm trying to think of his first name. For some reason, he was, I think he's in the Pentagon doing something. I don't know why his name comes into my mind. That he was not giving the okay. I could be completely wrong. Is he Homeland Security? Who is Homeland Security? No. Anyway, we'll work it out. All right, everybody, so let's do this. Let's feel the feelings. Keep notes, please, so that we can discuss them next week. This will be a really, as I said, this will be a really good week to be aware of what you're feeling and how you divert yourself from those feelings. Let's see how we can do this, all right? So, Eric Collins, military in the Pentagon. Yes, I didn't know his name was Eric. No, it's not the one I'm thinking of, I don't think. I'll find out who it is and get back to you on that one, Janie. All right, so let's be there for one another. Let's make sure that we all understand that everybody is going to be a little scared around the world, not just here in the, for those of you in the States. And everybody in any, as I said, my sister lives probably 10 blocks away from the Capitol in Washington State, and I'm scared for her. And I am certain wherever you live, if you're near a Capitol building, you have every reason to be fearful, because a mob, doesn't have, it gets compounded on itself. Well, thank you, Jeannie. She's saying she'll put my sister in her prayers, but and she's already having AFib problems, and it's just like, wow, so scary. All right, everybody, let's do this, and let's do it together, and we will learn a great deal. And by the way, I am fearful, not just for this week, it's what's going to happen afterwards. And so, yes, be prepared. If taxes have to go up to cover the cost of all of this, be prepared that, therefore, all food prices will go up. Be prepared that we were going to have to probably spend, in my case, the rest of my life being very, very careful about our money, because it just there won't be money, and we will have to be more and more careful. So let's keep learning how to grow our own food. Let's keep learning how to save a little bit of money here and there. This is DearMamaSal saying thank you so much for being here. We'll catch you this evening at 7 o'clock. Bye-bye for now.